Ideas come from anywhere. The important thing is to notice. Bringing the physical world of wood, tile, and graphite into the digital world of computers, only to render it again in the physical world as a printed book. Using the software and the hardware provided by technology. Finding a way to manage the learning curve and attempting to create a thing of beauty. A book you can hold in your hand. The book that we're making is based on a press sheet that's 17 inches by 11. In order to make a book out of an 11 by 17 press sheet, we put 4 pages on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. After it's printed, it's folded, stitched, and trimmed. You can see that the way the pages number is different than the way that you read them. The difference being a printer spread or a reader spread. So if I number the pages 1 through 8, you see that when I unfold the sheet, that will be the orientation of the pages. Now the particular book that we're making has 12 pages. Each signature or press sheet contains 8 pages, one nested in the other. The bindery goes here, then we trim it off the top to make a finished book. That's the recipe. Pantone matching system. A standardization for mixing ink. This particular color we're using, Pantone 180U, requires 16 parts Pantone warm red and 1 part Pantone black. Mixing the ink requires that, like any good recipe, we use exacting amounts. We use a triple beam scale to measure these amounts and a paper container to contain the ink. First, we make the container. Then we zero out the scale with the weight of the container. Then we begin to add the different inks until it reaches 0. So we scrape the ink out of the container onto the glass so that we can blend the color. Okay, so now we load the ink into the ink fountains. First the red, smear it on with an ink knife. Then we get the black and load it in the second tower. Pressman's hands get dirty with ink. Got to keep washing them before you touch the paper. And turn on the cutter. Plates are the metal substrate that attracts ink in the image areas and resists ink in the non-image areas. First, the plate that represents the red ink, or the first signature for the job. This is the plate that represents the black ink. I have to adjust the feed table to reflect the press sheet size, which in this case is 11 by 17. Now we load the paper. First, the paper that we're actually printing the book on, which is this kind of creamy brown paper. And then setup, which is what we use to get the images into position before we start printing on the good paper. Crank it into place. Graphic design is a form of applied art, taking the lessons of fine art and applying them to a form of visual communication.
You can see that image too. Repeated.
Combining images and text to a desired end. Not simply art for art's sake, but art for a reason. Art to sell a product or a service. Art to deliver a message. Art to convey an awareness. It's a folding machine. We transfer the thickness of the paper to the gap in the rollers by inserting bits of the paper that we're going to fold into these gap detectors. So you got to put the receiving tray in, turn on the conveyor. Making things with your hands is refreshing after dealing so long with people. Something to show for your work at the end of the day. Pushes back some of the chaos, and just for a little while brings order to the world. And the final trim now that the book's been printed. The last step of production. From concept to completion, a finished book. Bye.